Welcome back to the Journey of You podcast. We're all three here today. We got all of us for a super juicy episode. And today's theme for today's juicy episode, surrender. 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 It's such a critical part of the personal journey. And there'll be many times in the journey that we need to surrender. And truth be told, surrender is really actually an empowered state of being. A lot of people have a really strong misconcept that surrender comes from a state of actually of like lack, but actually only a real empowered person is going to truly genuinely surrender. And we're going to dive into that way deep today and get real deep. But let's bring in the other ladies. Hey Chris, hey Felicia, come on in. Let's share with the folks of what today's all about.
Yeah, I want to add that often I feel surrender is mistaken with giving up. And that really
Mm,
is like from this victim state. But when we
yeah.
surrender, to me, that really reminds me of that quote from Seneca, which is fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. And I always see this river where you fight, like you try to grab on to the sides and try to escape, but you're really dragged along. Whereas, you can be on a floaty and just flow with the river. And that's to me when you surrender from a place of empowerment because that this is going to
You're
happen anyway.
taken care of.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, it's actually funny that you bring up this quote because my dad has a saying. And he's always saying, there is no should or could, there's only what is. Right. And so when we're surrendering to the what is, we're allowing what will happen to happen and also playing with it instead of like what you were saying is like fighting it. And
Yeah.
oh, things should be this way or things could be this way. And now I'm in a victim. Could
Yeah.
be, right. Whereas if I flip that switch, oh, what can I surrender to?
Exactly.
Change
Because the river,
everything.
like the metaphor of the river is such a prime example because the river's flowing. Like it's just flowing. It's going to keep flowing, right? Whether you surrender to the river or not, the river will flow,
Yes.
I
right?
mean, not unlike your example last episode, Devin,
Yeah.
around the dark side, right? Where the tree just stands, the sun creates shadow,
Yep.
and the shadow is there. The river
Yep.
flows, the shadow
Yep.
is there.
It just is, right? And so that's where we want to guide you guys into and welcome you into to view the surrender to the river like as an empowered state of being, right? Because if you are looking at surrender as being, if you're willing to use this episode to allow you to shift your relationship to what surrender really is, um, your opportunity to become accustomed to surrender being an empowered state of just jumping in the damn river and letting the river take you, like that's the invitation. But we got to be able to look at the contrast within ourselves of like, so how are you currently looking at surrender? But we'll dive into that in just a moment. For now, what we're talking about is let's look at surrender for a hot minute as it's a place that actually brings us into greater power, greater embodiment, greater magic flowing, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like when we truly surrender, then I don't like the word trust, but it's like we know that whatever is happening for a higher reason, is happening for a good reason. If I fight it, it's not gonna not happen if it happens for a higher reason, right? So I might as well surrender to it and save my energy and use it for something even better, right? And let myself be carried by that. Whereas
Mm.
when I fight it, it's just such an incredible waste of energy. Like it's so draining and we get nowhere and
hmm
we feel even more helpless and even more victimized, right?
Yep. Totally. Yep. And right, so that's the other side of the coin, right? Is that if we're coming from that victim state, from that disempowered state, we're probably going to be resisting surrender. We're probably going to be needing a sense of control, like, right? Like I got to control how I work with this river, right? Like make sure I have a raft and make sure I have paddles and right? Like now we're into whitewater rafting and we need to like the river's against us and we got to work, it's an
And
energy.
then
It's
you're
an
trying to
energy.
paddle
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you're trying to paddle against the river.
I was just
right?
going
So
to
you're
say it's
using your
not even
energy.
Whitewater River, but it's like you're going against the Whitewater River.
And you're like, I can fight this end result. I can fight
Mm,
this outcome.
mm,
And thus we create our own suffering.
Mm.
And
yep.
it's amazing how many times I've done that in my life, right?
Who hasn't? Who hasn't?
Right?
And we
It's the
stay in a
human experience.
situation, or we try to make a situation something, because we think that's what it's supposed to be. And if we wake up a little bit and come out, step back, right? You can even step out of the river, right? And just take a step back and look at it and say, like, what do I need to see right now?
Mm-hmm.
And jump back in.
Yeah.
With
To be
grace.
clear for anyone who isn't getting this metaphor, we're talking about the river being the river of life, right? Life is a metaphorical river, right? That the energy is flowing. And I actually use this example that Felicia you're talking about is like, so I ask people, where are you at in relationship to the river? Like, so it's like right now, if you look at the river of life as a metaphorical river, and it's like, am I sitting on the sidelines? Are my feet dangling into the river? Am I even touching the water? Am I in the river? Right? And so we're seeing our relationship to life as a whole. And we're talking about a deeper concept of surrender, of like, are you willing, like, would you be willing to jump in the river and truly surrender to the flow of that river to take you where it's intending to take you regardless.
To very magical places.
Yeah.
Because truly, like the times that I've had to surrender the most in life, that I've been forced in my worst case scenarios, it took me to the most magical places. Once I was able to surrender, and before I surrendered, I was just in pure anxiety and panic and worry and fear, because I was fighting it so hard I couldn't let that happen, right?
Yeah. This is Joy, the Journey of You podcast. We're your hosts, Devin,
Chris,
and Felicia.
And we're here for joy.
This podcast is your permission slip to reconnect to your inherent joy and to embrace it.
Let's fill up the cosmic joy pot together as we dive into today's episode.
I personally have a very direct story very recently. When I was last week, I was on the island of Kauai, and there's a hike there that is an infamous hike as being like a really challenging hike on Kalalau Trail. And the full trail is actually 11 miles, where people actually go and basically live off grid. And you can only get a camping permit, and you can only go back into that portion of the mountains like with a permit. But the first 4 miles, if you take the first 2 miles, you can get to a secret beach called Kihei Beach. And then the next is another 2 miles to get up into this secret waterfall. And when I was starting the whole hike, I didn't know where I was going. I was literally surrendering to my higher guidance of like, whatever today is. I was prepped for everything, had enough water, had enough snacks and everything. And in my mind, I probably would have just gone the 2 mile hike to just the beach, right? And just chilled at the beach and hung out there. But it's a very much, I've practiced surrender enough to know that, especially with Mother Nature, I'm just like, you show me, you tell me, right? Mm-hmm. So I get to I get 2 miles in, I'm at this beach, and I dip into the river, and I'm just, oh my God, in bliss and enjoying this and meditate in the caves on the beach there. And then I just get this hit of like, we're going up to the waterfall. And, you know, the first little bit when you're going up, you're in the excitement of it, and you're like, yeah, I'm going up to a waterfall, awesome. And then you hit this point where you're just like, why am I doing this? And the ego comes in, right? And it's basically, there was a part of me that at that point, thankfully it was so small, but there's a very distinct example to share in this surrender, because there was this moment where the part of me wanted to resist what is. It wanted to resist what was happening and fight the hike. Right? It was just like, this is hard. Do we really need to? I think we've gone far enough yet. Like the number of times I saw my ego say that is hilarious, you guys. Like multiple points. It was like, I think this is good enough. We're good here. Like right? Like I can see it. There it is. But there was this point of like, it's so hard to, it's such an energetic thing that happens in that moment where I just let go and I surrender to being like, there's something pulling me up this mountain into this waterfall. I don't know how I'm doing this, because logically I'm like, I am so out of shape compared to like what I would have thought I needed to be to do this hike. But my body is moving up this mountain. I'm just going. And it was like a surrender of like, honestly allowing the spirits of the land and the cosmos to support me to get up this get up this mountain into this waterfall. And it was just this, if I would have been in that fighting energy, the entire hike would have been treacherous. I would have been like, oh, this is hard. Oh, this sucks. Oh, I don't know if I'll make it. I would have been in that dialogue, but there was just this energetic switch from like realizing my head dialogue into my heart of being like, there's a reason I'm being pulled up this, allow it to pull me. And then when I got up there, it was just like, wow, like, okay, yeah. Like, I'm so grateful I got up here. I'm so grateful I didn't stop halfway or three-quarters away through thinking, oh, this is good enough, right? It was like, no, I'm here for the whole enchilada, the whole thing, And it was glorious, and it literally was like something else was supporting me. It wasn't like I was like, I'm not doing this alone. And that's for me the time frames that I've had to where it's just like, just surrender, just something bigger is supporting you. It's genuinely magic. I mean, it happens on smaller scale things. I know you guys will likely have stories too, but this is the most recent one for me that was just like, get out of the way, like, we're trying to help you, damn it.
Yeah, it really reminds me of when I was walking the Camino now in September. I don't know if I shared this story before, but probably I have, because it was so inspiring to me. That was on after the second day. That was like another 25-kilometer hike, and it was mostly downhill, and my knees were in so much pain. And I got this hit of pain is inevitable. As human beings, we will experience pain on all levels, but suffering is a choice. And that's exactly it, right? If we fight this, we will suffer, right? And if we just surrender to the support we're receiving, there will be no suffering, right? And at the end of day 3, I had 0 knee pain, because I kept saying, so why would I choose suffering? Why would I choose suffering? Why would I choose? Like the arguments that came up were so stupid, like it's like, I'm not that stupid. I won't be choosing suffering, right? And so it was gone, right? And it was really, really incredible. And yeah, so to me, that's what happens when we surrender.
Totally.
And Chris, if I may, it's not unlike your surgery story.
Yes.
When you
absolutely.
surrendered, right, and you have all this anxiety and overwhelm going into it, and then you surrendered, and it became this expansive, magical experience that was
Absolutely.
truly like, wow, I couldn't have logically thought it could be like this in my mind. Right? But then when you surrender, this magic shows you paths and ways that we couldn't have conceived of with the restrictions of our minds. And so I've obviously said already in the episode how I've experienced resisting that surrender so many times in my life, and I think I could come up with 10 off the top of my head. And so it's funny because bowling right now is so prominent for me, because I'm about to head to the World Championships in Hong Kong, and yay, it's exciting. It's exciting.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And it's funny because up until there was an episode that Devin and I had recorded a few weeks ago, right? And up until that episode, I had even resisted allowing myself to believe that I had been selected.
Wow.
Because like my past world experiences have been less than desirable, shall I say, right? Like that's not the desired outcome I logically would have wanted for myself. And so I was resisting and fighting, even dropping into that past experience, because it felt so painful, right? And we don't know how this is going to unfold yet. And I am letting myself feel into that anxiety. I've journaled about my past experiences so that I can see it from a different perspective. I can jump out of the river. I don't have to keep fighting the anxiety, trying to swim uphill of it. And I can step back on the riverbank and just say, okay, this is flowing. It happened. It happens occasionally when I'm bowling in pressure situations, right? And now what do I how do I choose to see it? How do I want to see it? How do I want to move with it instead of against it? Yeah. And we'll see where that magic goes.
To good places.
If I need more time.
Good places.
Yeah.
I want to add another story that is what's it called in English? Is it a parable? Do you call it a parable in English?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What's it called in German?
Parabel.
Oh yeah, cool. I love it.
And I believe it's a Buddhist parable, but I've also heard that it's Stoic, and it's about the farmer with the horse. You might have heard it before, right?
Yes, yes.
But for those of you who haven't, there's this Zen Buddhist. So in my knowledge, it's a Zen Buddhist farmer who has a horse, and one day the horse runs off, and the whole village is like, "Wow, such bad luck, such bad luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, I don't know." And then the horse returns with a whole herd of 9 other horses, and the whole village is like, "Wow, such good luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, I don't know." And then his son starts training the horses, and he falls off the horse and breaks a leg, and the whole village is like, "Oh, such bad luck." And then the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, I don't know." And then the army comes to draft young men, and the son cannot be drafted because of the broken leg. And the village again is like, "Oh, such good luck." And the farmer is like, "Well, good luck, bad luck, I don't know." Right. And to me, that ultimately describes surrender, because in the moment, our egos will make us believe that it's our worst nightmare coming true, what we're living in that moment. But when we are able to rise above and come to that empowered state, we will realize that even the worst life experiences we have will ultimately lead to something magical and magnificent. And for me, that was really when our son was born, with that heart challenge, right? And I had those super intense 8 weeks, his first 8 weeks of life, where I did not know if he would survive or not. And when he had to have that surgery, when he was this teeny little baby, and even the first 2 years were filled with that panic and that fear and that anxiety and that hypervigilance and all of that. But in the end, it gave me such a deep appreciation of life. And so many really magical, beautiful things have come through that in that moment, I would not have believed to be possible, right? And then I was deeply, deeply, deeply fighting it. And I believe if something like that were to happen to me now, my ego would still struggle. My ego would still strive to fight it, because it's just so life-threatening. Yet I believe I could allow myself to flow with the river again faster, instead of constantly fighting. And so yeah
I think that is even more of a depth of example of what I think a lot of times people look at surrender as being like, oh, I'm supposed to just somehow get over that struggle and somehow get over my ego. What we're saying is that we're surrendering despite, like, amongst struggle, amongst pain, amongst terror and fear. Like, we're still right. It's because
experience it.
Because it's a bigger perspective, right? Like, we have a bigger perspective amongst the things that are happening that feel very real and very in our face, right? And that's the beauty of all of the episodes that we've brought you guys into, is to have these varying perspectives, right? So it's just looking at how you currently would look at surrender, right? Because, like Chris is saying, like, her evolution, right, of like, even myself, my ability to surrender today is vastly more than last year and 5 years ago and 10 years ago.
And yesterday.
Yesterday.
So it's an evolution, right? It's an evolution in growing into seeing surrender as empowerment, seeing surrender as a state of bigness in you, really, right?
Of being in your greatness. And also I feel, sorry.
No, it's okay. Keep going first.
I feel that it's important to know that even when we are in a state of surrender, life's experiences will keep pulling us back into that resistance. because we're meant to feel those feelings. And once we allow ourselves to feel the feelings, we can go back into surrender. But we will keep getting pulled in, keep pulled down to feel the deep emotions, to be able to come back up and feel that contrast, right? So it's about that, but it's knowing that we can rise above, that we can rise to the higher, and that we have that ability to surrender even in the worst situations and connect to that, knowing that truly all is well.
And what's interesting is, as we're talking this through, as what tends to happen, my realization is that so in preparing for Hong Kong, I've done all of these things around, getting my mindset, meditation and visualization and journaling, because I'm trying to control the outcome. I'm trying to not feel anxiety. So in this episode, in talking this through, it's like, oh, if I feel anxiety, if I experience anxiety, I surrender to it in the moment.
Absolutely. Because
fight
if
it,
you
pretend it doesn't exist.
Because if you fight it and if you pretend it doesn't exist, then you actually make it persist and it stays because you didn't dare to feel it. And because you are so afraid of it, that's the energy that you attract instead of just letting it pass through you and integrating it, right?
Yeah, and what a prime thing to be talking about to our listeners is that when we're talking about surrender, we're not only talking about surrendering to the good, right? We're surrendering to like all the things that like, the positive assumption that good things are going to happen to me. Let me surrender to that. Because of course, all of us can be like, sure, I'll surrender to that one. But am I going to surrender to my anxiety? Right? Like this is a high level definition of what surrendering really is. And we've talked about it in various different ways. Acceptance and surrender to what is currently happening so that you can rise above. But Chris is going to lead us through a living example of it, but don't be fooled that you've heard this before. In a different way, right? So maybe today lands a little deeper. So what do you got for us, Chris? Where are you going to take us today?
I shall be inspired as I take you through it.
Please do.
Okay, so if you're safe to do so, I invite you to close down your eyes and just take a deep breath. And allow your nervous system to settle. Know that right here and right now, you're safe. Right here and right now, all is well. And just allow your breath to slow down and let the exhale be a little longer than your inhale. I invite you to now connect to a situation in your life where you are experiencing some level of resistance. And in your imagination, see a circle appear in front of you. And this circle contains the highest information about that situation. Something will become obvious to you about the situation, the gold that is inherent in the situation that you cannot connect to as you are struggling in it, as you are fighting it, as you are resisting it. But once you step into the circle, it will become obvious to you what higher experience wants to flow to you through this. What does your soul want you to see or feel or hear or know? Because this is happening in your life right now. Allow yourself to see whatever is ready to be seen. What are you afraid of in this situation? What are you resisting from happening? And what good would be in that situation if that exactly would happen? How would you experience more love, more connection, more life through this? And once you have received this, I invite you to take a deep breath. And choose to surrender, choose to know that whatever is happening for the best, for the highest good of you and everybody concerned. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, rub your hands together, and come back into the present moment. What did you get, ladies? Did you have something?
Yes. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. So for me in that journey, for me, it's there's a state of being in myself, of like really just being really settled in my sovereignty and in my core self that I'm resisting. A part of me is resisting, of like really fully going in, right? And so when stepping inside that circle of like what's really here, it's an obvious opportunity to be more of myself, right? Whereas like in my ego, it's like there's a negative assumption to what it means to really give into that, right? And there's a whole like storyline as to what it would mean if you did. And it's basically all fear-based, right? And just being like, we can't. Whereas in the higher, in that other circle, it's just like, it's the ultimate invitation. It's the ultimate opportunity to get to explore and like even see myself and surrender to that this other version of myself of being like, maybe I don't know everything about myself. What if I surrender to discovering more, right?
That could be an adventure.
Yeah. Right. And you know, the obvious truth of that in my life experiences is that I have only really known myself by expanding into who I really am, right? Is not having a fixed definition or version of who I think myself to be is that if I'm surrendering to maybe I don't know everything about myself, and what if I'm curious about more about me, right? It's like I'm surrendering to a discovery, surrendering to that, and it has so much more of an expansive feel, obviously, right? It's more expansive and inviting versus the other one is very just like no, 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 and there's a lot of energy put into sustaining that and holding on to that, right?
And
And whereas
constricting
the other
yourself.
one, yeah, where the other one is actually when you just like let go of that energy, right? So I can see in my egoic dynamic why that version of me doesn't want to. I get it. And I can hold both, right? Like what we've talked about a lot, and what I love about all of our demos is that all of this exists within me, right? All of this exists within me, and to come from a demo like that and to be like, okay, so it's like surrendering that that part of me exists, surrendering that this part of me exists, and then that's where I make my conscious choice, right? But that was my experience today.
Awesome. And I love that every time you said that, there's different parts of you, your screen split into different parts. Like, yes, validated. There is. And that's perfect.
Oh,
There you have it.
that's
True.
funny.
What about
That's
you,
always
Felicia?
funny. Okay. For me, the experience was quite interesting. As I stepped into the circle again, I kind of went into this place where I was floating in water and really then just allowing myself to be, to be. And I even saw myself in Hong Kong with that anxiety, right? And then loving myself through it. So saying it's okay to experience anxiety, right? It's not something that I want to just push away or never experience again. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Right. And it reminded me of this quote from the movie I Heart Huckabees. Anything you could ever want or be, you already have and are. And I don't need to press and do anything differently. I can just be.
Absolutely. And what's obvious to me about this now is I sense that when you allow yourself to experience that anxiety fully, it will actually turn into excitement.
Yeah.
And by
like,
that,
just like, sorry, go ahead. I was just excited.
go for it. Say it.
But just like, I just hear that, like, it's like surrendering to that, like, I could have anxiety. Like, like surrender to the idea that it is a possibility that anxiety could be a part of my experience. And if you surrender to that, you have less anxiety about it.
Yes. That statement alone, I could experience anxiety, already felt like, oh, okay.
And it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to feel that, right? And to allow
good
that
luck,
self.
bad luck.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like if you only learned how to love yourself through that, that would be winning the world championship, for yourself.
My ego's like,
no,
that.
Obviously, right?
I get it.
Yeah.
And yes.
Because, like, this is what's hitting me real hard about us. I'm just getting goosebumps everywhere about what Felicia's real time experiencing. But I think what we all do, and where this surrender concept can get really skewed is that, because again, the surrendering is not only to the good, it's also to that things could happen. I could have anxiety. I could resist Devin, I could resist being my full self. These are possibilities that could happen. But it's once we surrender that, okay, that could happen, is what we're doing is we're taking the controls off and we're just being like, okay, so like if I look at all the possibilities that could happen, that's actually a really empowered state to be like, yeah, I could do this, I could do that, I could shy away, I could have a meltdown, I could have all that. But it's from that wider lens of like, yeah, that all could happen. And where do I want to put my energy and focus?
Exactly. Because if you are so scared of feeling that anxiety, of getting blocked and all that, you unconsciously put your power there. You unconsciously channel your energy to that because you're so scared of it. And that's why your ego says, well, that must be important then. Right. And so that's where the energy flows. Whereas when you rise above and say, good luck, bad luck, I don't know, you take the impact out of that. Like you take the importance out of it because you say, I don't know, I'm not labeling this as good or this as bad, right? It's all equal. All the experiences are equal. If I have the choice, I would love that, but it's all equal, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure that there's people out there right now. That's why I brought this up, because I know for a fact I have a couple clients I'm thinking of that right now are still orienting to the idea that, like, surrendering to our dark part, surrendering to the shadow side, right? And that's why we both felt like we all felt called to, like, be talking about this more in this time right now, and end of October, early November of 2025, is because these things do come in like waves as human beings, right? And there's common that we're all going to experience very similar things. So the three of us are actually experiencing real-time examples of having to surrender to something that's happening, and to surrendering that we don't know how it is, and that we're not, right? Like, and so it's a real-time application of it's right. Essentially, surrendering to the river of life is flowing, you guys. It's just like coming back to this river. The river is life is flowing, but just to be real with yourself and surrender to, okay, here's currently how I relate to this river, and how would I love to relate to the river moving forward, you know? Yeah.
On a floaty.
On a floaty. Exactly. On a floaty. Exactly.
With a nice drink in my hand.
I know. Yeah. So our question to you always is what is it for you? What was this demonstration like for you? We genuinely want to hear from you, right? So if you would love to share with us, please just put in the comments on any of the platforms that you listen to our podcast on, or you can always touch base with us at journeyofyoupodcast@gmail.com. But if you don't do it for us, if you don't share with us, do it for yourself, please, please. Journal about it, ponder, contemplate your relationship with surrender, right? Is look at it, look at yourself, right? Surrender to your relationship with surrender, and contemplate, ponder it, and may it evolve, right? Set this intention for it to evolve if you want it to, right? If you're happy with your relationship right now, then rock on. If you'd love to surrender to a new change, do that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So until next time, much joy to you. Bye.
Bye.